What's up, everybody? Good late morning. It is, in a manner of speaking anyway, it's like college football morning every Wednesday. We have the two college football related videos. And we got an NCAA college football watch schedule for this upcoming week. It's pretty simple because there are some games being played throughout the week. Like, I think there were some games yesterday. There are going to be games later today, tomorrow, Friday. None of them really None of them really stood out to me in any meaningful way. Like, you can watch them if you want to. They might be good games, but I didn't see that much that was like interesting to us from this angle. So, have fun watching what you want, but we're going to go right into Saturday here to try to find games that are worth watching from a prospect perspective. Starts at 9 a.m. There's a lot of stuff going on this Saturday, by the way, so make sure your remote has batteries because you're going to have to change the channel a lot, maybe. 9 a.m. on Fox, you got Penn State, and they've got two players now that I'm monitoring. They have that edge player, the what's his name, Robinson, who's really good, but focusing on the stuff that matters a little bit more, their Theo Johnson tight end and Curtis Jacobs linebacker, I think are guys that need to be monitored for the Seahawks. They're not super highly touted guys, but they've become very interesting to me. And they're taking on Ohio State. Now, that's an incredible game just on the surface, so you might watch this game anyway. But Ohio State, obviously, Cade Stover, Donovan Jackson, Tyleik Williams, Michael Hall Jr., Henry Tumloalau, and Tommy Eichenberg. It's a stacked group of prospects that I think are worth keeping an eye on. So this is just a great game, period. So if you can haul yourself out of bed at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, this is definitely the place to be. There's only one other thing that caught my attention in the 9 a.m. window. It was over on ABC. We had UCF playing Oklahoma. Danny Stutzman is playing for Oklahoma. He's the linebacker who I've started to really turn myself onto. I think he's played a great season so far. And if he keeps this up, he may end up being a day 2 pick. There's a little bit of a gap in the linebacker class this year, I feel like. So there's room for guys to move up higher than you would expect. But if you have to choose, there's no decision to make, right? Like, Penn State versus Ohio State is the game of the day for sure. There's even some stakes for the Washington Huskies maybe in this one. So I'll definitely be watching this one. And there's going to be so much stuff going on both sides of the ball that's interesting from a prospect perspective. So yeah, that's your 9 a.m. stuff. And then we get to 12:30 and things kind of go crazy because, yeah, I've got 3 games in this window. So if you can keep up with all this stuff going on, then good for you. So we've got an ABC game at 12:30, Washington State, the Cougars playing the Oregon Ducks. Washington State needs to snap themselves out of this rut. They're not playing well. Cam Ward and Hicks, both players that I like. I still like Cam Ward. I know some people are going to be put off of him because Washington State's looked so bad lately, but I think that team is just bad around him. I think Cam Ward is good, and he's doing what he can with a pretty bad team. And then, of course, you have Oregon trying to respond to their brutal loss last week. You've got Nix, and you've got 2 defensive linemen, Brandon Dorlus, who I thought was great last week against Washington, and Jordan Birch, who actually had a couple plays as well. But 2 defensive linemen worth watching for draft purposes. And that should be a pretty good game. Maybe it's just a game that Oregon mops the floor with them. That's possible. But I think it's still worth watching. I want to see what Cam Ward can do against that Oregon front. Definitely worth watching. We also have another 12:30 game, CBS, Tennessee taking on Alabama. And Joe Milton, I don't know how to feel about this one. I love Joe Milton for his potential. I know he's not playing that well right now, although I don't think he's playing that bad. But here's the thing. If he plays too good, some team is going to fall in love with him and make him like a first or second round pick. And I'm not even kidding by that. Some people are going to be like, no, you're crazy if you think that's a realistic possibility. No, really. Joe Milton has the tools to be a first round pick. He just doesn't have the production. So if he starts producing, like, is that even really what we want? Do we really want some team to be like, whoa, this guy could be, this guy has a chance to be Josh Allen in the NFL? So honestly, I don't even know if I want Joe Milton to play good, but I definitely want to watch him one way or the other. And Alabama, they've got some stuff going on defense. Of course, there's Dallas Turner, But Justin Ibogbe has been really great lately, and their safety, Moore, has been really good as well. Those are two guys that I'm actually thinking about pretty high priority in the draft. There's one other 12:30 game. It's the NBC game. It's Minnesota versus Iowa. Not not exactly Keno, but Minnesota does have Brevin Spanford, one of the better tight ends in this draft, although he hasn't played great so far this year. Iowa has two tight ends as well, so this is like the tight end bowl. A Luke Lackey and Eric All, both guys who may get drafted, and both guys who, I mean, there's room in this tight end class for somebody to take control here for sure. Especially now that Bowers is out for the next 6 weeks, which big bummer. But obviously, it's not like the Seahawks were going to be able to draft him, so I'm not even thinking about it like that. That gets us to the 4 p.m. window, and I actually have 3 games here as well. Some more interesting than others, maybe. But ESPN2 has TCU against Kansas State. Both teams have a guard that I like. Brandon Coleman for TCU and Cooper Bebe for Kansas State. So you could get a little bit of guard action in that game that might be fun to watch. Bebe's playing tackle right now, by the way, obviously. 4:30, we have an ABC game with Duke versus Florida State. Pretty big game, but is Riley Leonard going to play? I kind of feel like he won't. So that's a question mark. If Riley Leonard doesn't play, that game isn't that interesting. And also it loses a lot of its prospect luster. But you still got Graham Barton, and you've still got Carter, Dwayne Carter on the defensive line for Duke. And Florida State's fun. Jordan Travis, Jaheim Bell, Jared Verse. They've got some good prospects there. So even if Leonard doesn't play, it's a pretty good game. And then another 4:30 game. So yeah, we're tripling up again on Fox. Utah versus USC, which should be a really interesting game just in general. Utah has a tight end who is starting to sneak into the draftable conversation, Brant Kuith, and Cole Bishop at safety. And USC, of course, has Caleb. How's he going to respond to the worst game of his career? And Kalen Bullock, one of my favorite safeties. We got two 7:30 games as well, so even the late window's nice. Now, this first one isn't super sexy, but it's better than nothing. 7:30 ESPN, UCLA versus Stanford, and Stanford has Benjamin Urosek, tight end, who's really starting to get some positive attention here, although it's kind of weird how many games Urosek just doesn't have a big impact. Like, against Colorado, when they had that miracle comeback, he did nothing in that game, really. He was a complete afterthought. You would think that if Stanford's going to have a huge comeback against Colorado, Urosek's going to be at the forefront of it, but no. One more 7:30 game. This one's on Fox Sports 1, so it's not a major network, but I'm going to throw it in anyway because there's nothing else. So if you get Fox Sports 1 or have access to it, Arizona State versus Washington, obviously this is the game I'm going to be watching for non-draft purposes, but Washington, they've still got Michael Penix, who a lot of Seahawks fans are starting to really get into, and Braylon Trice, one of the better edge prospects in this draft as well. Although he's not playing great so far this year, I do wonder if he's slipping to that second round, and could he be our second round edge player this year? It seems like we take an edge player in the second round pretty much every year. We have a decent number of picks. So it's a full slate of Saturday games. A lot of stuff going on this Saturday. A lot of fun games, a lot of interesting games, a lot of good prospects on display. Let's see what's up. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. And bow down to Washington as well. Both angles I got you from. All right, catch y'all later.